I think I know, let that start first. I think I know most of you. So I'm Laura, I'm the volunteering coordinator for Voluntary Norfolk, and I'm looking after the Get InVOLved platform. So like we said, this session is pretty much to get sort of the most out of the platform. So we won't go into detail on sort of like getting organisations registered or sort of anything like that. So if you do need support with that, we can do that at another time. But I will go over some of the features and some of the things that maybe sort of people aren't making the most out of, and we'll sort of see how it goes from there. So I'm hoping this all works okay. So yeah, so what I'll go through is just a brief overview on the organisation's page, good things to sort of include on that. Adding roles and the types of roles that you can add onto the platform, sharing your roles once they've been published, so that's either via social media or onto your own websites, how the communication features work on Get InVOLved, like the messaging service, and how to update volunteer statuses. So that's if you've accepted a volunteer or if they've declined for whatever reason, or maybe you've put them on a reserve list. We've also got a few other features that you might not be aware of, and a few sort of hints and tips that we've sort of like started to sort of build up on our own journey of using it as well. So I will flick between slides and showing you the live platform just so you can get a better idea of how these things work. It's sort of all great having it all written down, but if you're not seeing it on a page, it's quite be hard to sort of digest. So I will go over that as well. On your organisation's page, obviously it goes without saying that's the main page where volunteers are going to find out a little bit more about you. So that's a great place to put all your sort of details, what your missions and aims are, but also to sort of bear in mind the language and the jargon that you might be using. It's not a massive problem on the platform at the moment, but we do occasionally get messages from potential volunteers that have said, oh, I don't know what this acronym means, can you explain it? So just sort of try and be mindful of what you're putting in on your descriptions when you're adding onto your organisational page. The whole page, as well as the roles, are editable at any time. So if you do make a mistake, if anything changes, if like your websites change or anything like that, you can go in and change it anytime, any day. So don't be sort of worried about sort of things that sort of change regularly. You may already be aware, but this platform, unlike our previous ones, it takes more than just roles. So you can also add on any training opportunities that are open to the public and also community events. So I think we've had one recently where there was a pop-up picnic. There was a fundraising event for a charity, and they also required volunteers. So they put it on twice, once as an event and once as a volunteering role. So it's a really good opportunity to sort of spread the word on events and things that you're doing as well. Community and training events are slightly different to volunteering roles. They all require specific dates. They will automatically expire after the event, so you don't have to worry about doing all of that. And all the training events will come automatically on the main volunteering opportunities page. They don't appear anywhere differently, so they'll all still come under the same thing. They have the same main functions, but the detailed descriptions are slightly different, so we'll go over that when we sort of have a look at them. So when adding roles, there's various different types. It's not just a volunteering role, so it's good to have a sort of a little look either on this, or it does have a brief description on the platform when you're adding a role, and the type of role it is. So we've got on various different ones on here. If it's a recurring role that you're sort of like regularly wanting people to get involved in, it will always go under an organisational role. If it's something that's temporary, that's maybe only like 6 weeks, we put those under project roles. They can be quite handy for sort of students that are returning to the city or the county, because they will put in specific dates that they're available to volunteer. And if you've got a project role and you've put the dates in, that'll come up for people that are searching for those. So that's a really good way of sort of getting people that may be looking for that sort of temporary stuff. Events and tasks as well. So there's lots of different types of roles, but most of them are organisational, and they can all be searched for sort of individually by the volunteers as well. So it's good to sort of bear those in mind. We do have copies of these on the website of this particular one, if you need sort of reminding, but it does sort of prompt you when you're adding a new role as well. So that's one to consider. I will go over briefly adding images. We've had a couple of issues with organisations adding photos onto the platform. So when you add your pictures, it's a little bit picky. It does like certain pixels. I'll just put that on the screen so you've got that for reference. And there is a preview on the bottom right as you're sort of editing your role. So I would advise to sort of keep an eye on that preview, because you will see then if it's going to cut anybody's heads or legs off or anything like that, and then you can go in and edit it before you put it on. If you don't do that and it goes straight on, you might, especially if it's a text one, you're going to miss like a massive chunk either side and top and the bottom of your image, and that's not sort of great for when people are looking for it as well. If you want any help sort of adding images, obviously we can support you doing that. There is a self-help on the website, but the link's also on the screen. And if you don't have any suitable photos that you can use, there's lots and lots of free ones, and we've put a few examples on there as well, so you can go through those. I'll show you the next one in person, because that will be a bit easier to sort of show you some of the other functions. But once your roles are published, obviously it's then time to share them. So what I'll do is I'm just going to stop sharing this one, and I'm going to start sharing the live screens and see if it lets me change it over. Has anybody got any questions about photos while I'm sort of fiddling?
There's a photo, sorry, not a photo, there's a question in the chat from Catherine that says, hi Laura, adding images, is this to make the volunteer ad more eye-catching, or is there another reason, please?
It is to make it more eye-catching. If you don't add any images, it will just be a block colour. So once this has actually stopped sharing, which it doesn't want to do at the moment, there we go, now it's going to do it. Yeah, so I'll show you what they look like when you add an actual image. So we're going to go onto the live site now. Can everybody see sort of like the little different coloured tiles and different photos?
Yep, I can see that.
So these are photos that have been added for the individual roles. If you don't add a photo at all, like I said, it will just be a block colour. So obviously when somebody's going through the platform and they're scrolling, they're going to be looking for sort of like photos that look engaging and things they can get involved in. Like I said earlier, do bear in mind about pictures that will get cut off. So you can see on one of them there, you've got the Samaritans one. It's cut off the left-hand side. Like when I said, when you go onto the preview, you can see that. So hopefully you can adjust it before it sort of goes live. Like the organisations page, everything is editable at any time. So if you go onto the live website and think, actually, I don't like that photo, I want to add another one, then you can just change it. It's not going to sort of make any difference to it will still keep the role live. So that's fine with that. In regards to sharing, you'll get a prompt from the platform as soon as you make your role live. It will say, would you like to share it to social media? Would you like to email the link to anybody? So you'll get those prompts every time you add a role. They're also shareable from within the role themselves. So underneath where it says join, you've got the different icons. So we've got Facebook, Twitter, I think, is that LinkedIn, that third one?
I think that's LinkedIn, yeah.
LinkedIn, isn't it? And WhatsApp. So you can just sort of select straight away. And I'll show you how easy it is. You click on the icon and you can add your text for your post and then post it straight away. So you can do it like that. I'm not going to do it now because I've already done this once. But it is really simple to do. And like I said, it can be done by yourselves when you're adding your roles on, and it can also be done at any time by anybody else. So if a volunteer likes your role, they might share it to a friend, or if you've got a sort of a team member at home who notices it, they might share it to their social media. So if you've got a role that you really want to sort of get out far, even sort of members of staff, asking them to share it for you is a great way to sort of like help publicise that as well. So yeah, we definitely encourage you to do that. Has anybody got any questions about sharing? It's generally quite simple, but okay. The other thing I will just quickly go over is the volunteer pool. So the volunteer pool is any volunteers that are willing to be contacted by your organisation about sort of roles that might be interesting for them. So how the volunteer pool works is if you're going into it from your role, it will only give you the volunteers that have selected the distance to travel that incorporates your role. So that's one to sort of bear in mind. We've had a couple of queries from organisations that say, this person's come up on my volunteer pool, but I'm in Norwich and they're in Kings Lynn. That's because the volunteers selected like 50-mile radius. It might be unintentional, but that's why you might get sort of the odd ones that you think, oh, that person seems a little bit far away. But it is the volunteers that select that. It's not the platform. It will only give you the volunteers that are within those distances that they've selected. When you do reach out to the volunteer pool, I'm going to stop sharing this bit because I can't show you volunteer pool in a minute. When you do reach out to the volunteer pool, though, you can only reach out to 5 people a day. So that's sort of one to bear in mind if you've got like a role that you do sort of want to promote quite widely. You can only do it 5 to 5 people per day. I'll cover the distance bit, and another bit that I can't show you because I'm obviously GDPR, but when you go into the volunteer pools yourselves, and you'll see the list of all the potential volunteers for that role. Quite often we're saying, we're hearing from people that their contact details on there, they can't see what postcode area they're in. There is a piece at the bottom that you need to select. So it says show additional details. It's written in sort of like little blue text. And when you select on that, it will tell you more details about the volunteer, providing they're happy to share that. So that was another query that I've had a couple of, is we've had sort of people saying, I've got this details from this volunteer, but I don't know any of their interests. I'm just assuming the platform's done it for me. That's because you need to select that additional details bit to get sort of a bit more information from them. So that's that bit. The communication on the platform, you can message volunteers. It's a two-way system, so you don't have to sort of wait for a reply before you can message them again. That was the sort of function of the old system. You can include email addresses, you can include website links, you can't include any forms or sort of application forms or anything like that. So if you do want to message potential volunteers from the pool, or you're replying to a message, it will come up in your little inbox. Obviously my sad little inbox was empty when I took this picture. But if you have got any messages, it will show as a number where that little tray is. You'll also get an email every time you get a message, and you'll get a prompt if you don't reply to that message as well. So if you've left it for sort of 5 days, you'll get a little message from the system saying you've got a volunteer and you haven't replied to them yet. Please can you sort of check your inbox. So there's plenty of prompts. One thing I will mention is on your own profile is to check your email notifications and just make sure that you've got that function turned on, because it is something you can turn off. But I will show you how to do that a bit later. But that's sort of how the communication works on the platform. You can also communicate to us through it if you need to. So if you can't remember any of our email addresses or our details, but you know my name, you can type in the search and you can email us. You can also contact other organisations. If there is an organisation that's doing something similar, or that they might have a similar role to you and you want to sort of check in with them and see how they're doing, you can just start typing their organisation name and send them a little message as well. So it's sort of a nice way for you to sort of connect with each other. So once you've got your roles all up and running, and you've got your potential volunteers getting in touch with you through the platform, there is, you'll start getting sort of a list of names. And what we ask you to do, and it's sort of great for you to do it for yourself so you can like track your progress as well, is just to update those statuses. So it will automatically go to pending once somebody messages you through the system, or once you have contacted somebody through the volunteer pool, and it will stay pending until you change it. If you decide that that person is suitable for the role and you accept them, you can change it to accepted, obviously the same declined. Suggest is if you've maybe suggested a different role for them. So it might be that you're advertising another one, but you don't think they're right for this particular role, then you can select that one. And it might be that they're suitable, but you don't have the space. You can put them on a reserve list and obviously contact them when more spaces come up. We do encourage you to change those, especially the accepted and declines, because it's great for you to keep a track of everybody, but it's also good for us to know how well the platform's doing and any roles that might need some additional promotion. So when we check our dashboard, it will tell me anybody that's got sort of accepted roles, anybody that's got declined roles. If they all sit with pending, we don't know if you've been successful with your recruitment or if you might need some additional promotion. And at the moment, there's quite a high percentage of them that are sitting on pending. So obviously we can't support you to our best capacity if we don't know sort of the status of the volunteers that you've got on your system. So we do sort of encourage you to use those. There's lots of other features on the platform, so I'll leave this up just so you can go have a quick sort of glance through it. I won't read them all. You may already be aware of the questionnaires, which comes up on the system as add forms. That is a great way to sort of get additional information. So I've done a couple of test ones that just say, especially for roles that need something that's specific, like a driving role. So what you can do on that one is you can ask people, well, if they've got access to a car, it might be that you need somebody who's got the minimum of 5 doors, so you can ask them that. Have they got sort of insurance that covers them? When can they be available to start their volunteering role? And they can answer all of those questions before you sort of start the conversations with them. And that's quite handy with some of the driving ones is if they've not got a vehicle that's suitable, obviously then you don't want to start arranging interviews and that for them. You don't have to use the forms, you can have them set up and then just leave them to one side, and you can have multiples as well. So if you've got various different roles, then you might want additional information on all of them, but it all varies. You can have different forms, you can name them differently, and you can use them as and when you want to. There is a link there on how to set it up. I will go onto the platform and just sort of show you when we go through some of the other features. Let me just change that. Has anybody got any questions about the forms or anything? I've already, well, again, while I'm trying to
there are a couple of questions in the chat, Laura. So Lottie said, do volunteers in the pool also select the types of volunteering categories that they're interested in?
Yes.
And and Abby said, I often find other organisations in the volunteer pool. Is this because they also want to volunteer?
Sometimes it's because they want to volunteer, and I think sometimes it's because everybody is registered as a user, so it's as if you were going to volunteer. The would you like to join the volunteer pool pops up quite a lot, and I've had a couple of organisations that sort of probably didn't read it quite as they should have done and then just ticked the box, so they've put themselves in the volunteer pool. So it varies, some are accidental and some are intentional, but it's worth just pinging them a little message, or you can let me know and I can check in with them. I do try and check the pool regularly to see if there are people that have done that sort of accidentally. There are a couple that are genuine, so it's a bit hit and miss, but yeah. So I'm going to go into the passport. Okay. So this is how you will see your organisational page when you log in. Obviously, it won't be exactly like this one because this is all our details and photos, etc. But I can show you sort of what a lot of the opportunities and stuff look like. So if you have got opportunities, it will be under the opportunities. What I've done is I've done a couple of sort of draft ones. So I've done a park run and a litter pick, which is a community event, just so you can see sort of how the community events differ. Obviously, you can see it's got the dates on it. And like I said before, that will automatically expire on that date. So you don't have to do anything with that one. But I will quickly just go over some of the other features. So I mentioned quickly, briefly before, the forms. So I've got a couple of ones on here, like the additional information and contact forms. So you can see you can have multiple on there. I don't think there's a limit. I did get up to about 10 and then stopped doing it. So there are quite a few you can have on there. You can view and edit them. So if you think that any of the questions need changing, you can do that anytime. You can see the one, like I mentioned, I've said, have you got access to a car? It's 5 doors minimum, and they'll select yes or no. If anybody's used anything a bit like the survey building softwares, it's very similar to that. So when you add a new one, it will ask you the type of question that you want, whether that's like multiple choice, whether it's sort of just a drop down text box, and you can add as many questions as you like. So I'll show you sort of the create form. It also says who you want to be notified by email. So obviously I can select if it's a particular role, I can select what member of staff I'd like that to go to as well. But yeah, you can see the different questions, you can see if there's any additional like text boxes, and then you just create it. And like I said, it will sit there until you ask it to be added onto a role. Otherwise it will just sort of sit there in your history. So, but it is quite a good feature. There's a couple of organisations that have already started using it and said that's really good for sort of getting additional information before they start the application process. So that's that one. There is also a function to do an automatic message. So when you add a role, I'll show you on mine. So if I go in and edit my befriending role, so once it's in sort of editor, you can do sort of loads of other bits to it. Try and get to the so like I said at the beginning, these are the types of tasks. It's mostly organizational roles that you'll use, but yeah, you might want to use some of the other ones. Brief detailed chat goes in that first box. If you do want to add more, you can add a detailed description, and that'll give you a little bit more more sort of functionality. So you can put YouTube links to it. If you've got a video you'd like to add, you can put photographs. So it's a great way if you've had like a previous event or roles that you've got photos where volunteers are sort of actively engaging in those roles, you can add those as well. You can also add sort of more instructions on getting to locations if they're quite specific. So that's quite good. So near the bottom, we've got custom application form. That's where you would add your forms if you wanted to add it. And there's also an add a standard welcome message. It's not sort of a massive amount of text, but it might be that you'd like to say sort of thank you for applying. We aim to get back to you within sort of like 5 to 10 working days. Or you can say, I only work Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It's just a nice way to sort of manage those expectations with the volunteers so they don't think they're going to get something straight away from you. So that's a good thing to include as well. That one. Has anybody got any questions about sort of adding roles or any of those?
So Lottie has asked, are the forms linked to separate events or roles, or is it a standard form for your organisation?
The forms are sort of on your organisation's page. So once you've sort of built them or created them, you can add them to any role. Once they've been completed, you'll see that you can download the answers for it as well. So you can download them to sort of Excel and save them onto your own computers away from the platform.
Great, thank you. And Lottie also asked, can you duplicate a previous event or role you've used, or is it that you need to start from scratch each time?
Ah, yes, that's a good point. As I put that on one of my other slides that I'm not actually showing you at the moment, but yes, you can. So that's a great sort of function for when you're doing sort of multiple roles that are sort of similar. So yeah, don't type it all out again. You can just duplicate it. So you can see it's got a duplicate on there. It will duplicate the whole role in its entirety. So you will need to maybe change if it's a different location, you'll maybe need to change the location. If it's a community event or if it's training, then you'll just need to change the dates. But if everything else is the same, then you just sort of, I'm going to save it as draft and not actually make it live. But yeah, you just do that and it'll duplicate the whole thing. And then you can do that to any role as many times as you like. So that's that bit.
Lovely, thank you.
In regards to other features, there's some other exciting things you can do. So we've done the auto messages. I've done the sort of videos and images. So yeah, so be creative with those if you so wish to have a sort of a fiddle with it. Like I say, it's all editable. So if you sort of watch it back and think, oh, I don't want that on there anymore, just go back in and get rid of it. So under your organizational settings, you've got sort of various different boxes on here. The first profile one is your organization's profile. Like I said, you can change any of that at any time. So any of your emails, if you stop using Instagram or you don't want anybody to sort of contact you via Twitter anymore, you can do that. You can change your logo and cover pictures at any time, as well as your addresses as well. If you come across to the embedding part, this is an exciting feature where you can put your roles onto your own websites. So what it means by 1, 2, and 3 columns is how you'd like it displayed. So if you just want one column on your website, you can copy and paste this code that's already pre-generated. It'll need to go to your comms team or whoever sort of manages your website, but then they can embed that on your website and it will update it itself. So if new roles come on, old roles expire, you don't need to keep doing that again. It will just sort of update with the new opportunities. I can show you what that looks like on our site. We've sort of trialed it a little bit. So I'm trying to get the right one. Okay. So can everybody see the Voluntary Norfolk website now?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so what we've done is we've embedded sort of 1 column but 3 roles into our latest volunteering opportunities. So it will always pick the latest 3. So if one organisation goes on and puts 3 roles on, it's going to just have those 3 roles on. But luckily, we've had sort of some separate ones go on there recently. So that's how you can put those on your website. You can have as many as you like. With organisations that maybe don't want to just advertise their own, we would have to generate those codes for you, depending on what sort of activities, tasks, or dates you wanted. But if you want to do your own, your codes are always under your embedding, and you can do that anytime. So that's sort of great if you want to share them on your website, and it stops all that duplication as well. So if you're not having to put them on your website and having to put them on here, you can just put them on one and copy them over, which is quite handy. I think there's anything else I haven't shown you. Is there anything anybody wants to look at in more detail? I have got another exciting feature you can do if you've got a donations page as well. Is anybody from Home Start here? No? I think so. I'm going to pinch their page for a second because I know they've got theirs set up. So this is their opportunities page, but they've got their website, which you can put on your profile, but you've also got a donate, which if you've got a sort of designated sort of donations page, like Home Start have got, they're totally giving one, you can put that into your settings under donations. So if anybody wants to sort of donate, then that will take them straight to your donations page as well. So that's quite a nice little feature to add on if you do have that all set up. Stole them quickly because I knew they had one. Yeah, that's quite good. And it's on, yeah, organizational settings, your profile, and then you've got donations, and you can select that. Ours isn't enabled, so it doesn't give you the function to put the website in, but that's what it will do. I did mention earlier about your email notifications, so I will just show you quickly how to do that, because I know we did have a little bit of a bug early on that stopped people getting their emails. So if you go into the top right, that picture will be whatever you've set it as. Mine is obviously the volunteering one. Go on to view profile, which is under your name. You've then got edit profile, which again is under your name, and then you've got all the details of your own profile, which again, like the organization's one, you can change at any time. So if you want to change your password, if you want to delete your account, you can do that at any point. Email notifications is the one right at the end. Mine is slightly different because I've got the platform emails notifications on here, but you have just got sliders on all the ones that you'd like to receive. So do make sure any like new message ones are ticked over, so that you make sure you get the messages to your email inbox from the platform saying you've got new applications or you've got a new message. Otherwise you might miss a few doing that way. Also, you've got opportunity application updates, new application confirmations, and all things that are relative to the opportunity emails. If you're registered on the platform but you don't always use it, obviously you can then go out off and turn all those off. Some of them aren't relevant, so I don't get notified every time somebody joins the volunteer pool. because that's not relevant to me, but I do get the ones that are notified if I've got sort of a new organisation, for instance. So that's a good one to sort of go in and change as and when you need to. Has anybody got any questions about like profiles or organisational profiles or anything like that?
We've got one question from Lottie saying, what is the people icon for?
The people icon, in your organisation, that is everybody who's registered on your organisation's page. So if I go onto one of mine that's got quite a few involved. So all of these people are the ones that have got permission to use this page. These are like all of our admins, our moderators, or our members. So these are all my like admins on this particular one, which again, you can invite people to be admin or moderator, and you can also sort of delete them if you sort of don't need them on the platform anymore. But yeah, it's not sort of individuals or volunteers, that's sort of members of staff or people that have access to the platform that will be using it and sort of managing the volunteers.
Great, thank you. Vivian has just put in the chat that she is registered their organisation. What is the next step?
You've registered. The next step, once you're happy with your organisational page, is to start creating the roles. So you can create and just keep them in draft mode if you sort of want to sort of have a bit of a fiddle. On your organisational page, you can either go via opportunities or you can select the ad, and you'll start sort of building those opportunities. So obviously if it's training, community event, or a volunteering opportunity, you can sort of start building it as and when you like. As soon as you hit publish, it will go straight to live on the website. So if you want to do a bit of editing first, I would always suggest you save it as a draft. And as long as it's got a title and a location, it will allow you to do that. But yeah, that'll be the next stage, is to start sort of adding roles. Some people add them and keep them all in draft mode until they're happy, and then they publish them all in one go. Others just do it sort of one by one, but it's whichever is sort of easiest and best for you, really.
I've put in the chat, I've put a link to our, I think an event we did in June when we were just launching Get Involved. And I think, Laura, that, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a kind of very basic, this is how you register. So if you feel like you need to go right back to the sort of basic steps, it's there. And it also gives you a bit of background as to why we chose this platform. So it might be, you'll have this recording to refer to as well, but that one's quite a useful one to have saved too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think I've gone through most of the organisational and profile settings. The only other thing that I haven't mentioned that I probably did in the previous session that we did is the photos one. With photos, that's just a little chance for you to sort of have an album of maybe photos that you would like to use for roles. If you've got multiple roles going on the platform, especially if they're different roles, even if they're maybe different locations, it's quite nice to have different pictures, so that when people are scrolling, they're seeing sort of like different things come up. And that's a little chance for you to sort of keep a little bank of, maybe you want role pictures, and you can have an album that says role pictures, or you can have cover photos, you can have like volunteer event pictures, and you can store them all on there. And then as and when you're putting new roles on, you're not having to sort of search through your drives on your computer. They'll all be on there ready and waiting for you. I think that's it. I'm starting to lose my voice now. I think I've covered sort of all of like the basics, but if anybody wants to sort of go over anything else, I'm happy to sort of like skip back and sort of show you anything again, or if you want to have a look at anything, you can do that.
And Laura, if anyone has further questions, or if they're just setting up roles for the first time and want to check something with you, what's the easiest way to get in touch with you?
The easiest way is probably just either sort of call me or email me, and we can either set it up to do it on a video so I can sort of like go through it with you, and we can see what you're doing, or I can talk you through it on the phone. But yeah, it's whatever's easiest, really.
Thank you. And are you all right if I put your details in the chat? Oh,
Yeah,
I think Amelia's already on it.
Yeah, hopefully that's the right email address. I've also posted our survey. I think a lot of you have been to our sessions before, but if you have, then you'll know that we always send out a very brief survey. It really helps us because it helps us know whether we've hit the mark with the sessions and whether that's actually something useful for you to know, and also helps us plan future events. And it also gives us something to report back to our funders, which is really important. So we'll email this out again, but if you can take some time just to fill out the survey, that would be most appreciated.